Well, good evening, Chattanooga. And I'm very happy to be here in the Meacham program. Thank you for everybody who's responsible for it, especially Richard Jackson. And the first poem I'd like to read to you has to do with the language itself. First of all, I'm actually writing in another language, the language of the Old Testament, Hebrew. And I'll read you in Hebrew first. But this poem is also about the way language filters our reality, you name it, whatever, our psychology, our gender, our politics, our social life. Everything is already in the language, whichever language you talk. It's different from language to language. And it's also about this moment of inspiration when you don't really know if you write a poem or the poem writes you. So I'll start with just sounds that you wouldn't understand, okay? It will be Hebrew to you. השפה אומרת, מאחורי השפה עומדת שפה. שפה היא עקבות, עקובים משם. השפה אומרת, שמע, עכשיו. אתה מקשיב, היה פה הד. קח את השתיקה ונסה לשתוק. קח את המילים ונסה לדבר. מעבר לשפה, השפה היא פצע, שממנו ניגר וניגר העולם. השפה אומרת, יש, אין, יש, אין. השפה אומרת, אני. השפה אומרת, בוא נדבר אותך, בוא נמשש אותך, בוא, תגיד שאמרת. Language says, before language stands a language. Language is traces, stained by over there. Language says, listen. Now, you listen, here was echo. Take silence and try to be silent. Take the words and try to speak. Beyond language, language is a wound from which the world flows and flows. Language says, is not. Is not. Language says, I. Language says, come on, let's speak you. Let's handle you. Come on, say, you have said. And the second poem is kind of a chat with a Greek poet, Kavafis. His poem, Waiting for the Barbarians, that never came. So in my poem, they do come, and it's about what we do, actually, with language as a social thing. The Barbarians, round 2. It was not in vain that we awaited the barbarians. It was not in vain that we gathered in the city square. It was not in vain that our great ones put on their official robes and rehearsed their speeches for the event. It was not in vain that we smashed our temples and erected new ones to their gods. As proper, we burned our books that have nothing in them for people like that. As the prophecy foretold, the barbarians came and took the keys to the city from the king's hand. But when they came, they wore the garments of the land, and their customs were the customs of the state. And when they commanded us in our own tongue, we no longer knew when the barbarians had come to us. And talking about barbarians, I go to my personal barbarians. And that's a poem about dedicated to my grandparents' family that all perished in the Holocaust. And for many years, I didn't go to Germany. I refused all invitations to Germany, and I kind of nobody talked about it. It was hushed. And then I thought I really do want to understand these people in human terms, however distorted. And I wrote this poem where I give the mic to an ex-SS officer whom I meet, let's say, in a beer parlor in Bavaria or something like this. And it's like a persona poem, but a real persona poem is evoking something in yourself. And in this case, it's your demonic part, because otherwise, how can you write it? Okay, a glass of beer. The perfect murder has no reasons, he said. The perfect murder needs only a perfect object, as it was in Auschwitz. Not the crematoria, of course, but as it was afterwards, outside working hours. And he fell silent, looking at the froth on the beer and taking a sip. The perfect murder is love, he said. The perfect murder doesn't require anything perfect, except giving as much as you can. Even the memory of gripping the throat is eternal. Even the house that rocked my hand, even the peace that fell like a grace on cold flesh, even the heel of the boot awakens another eternity. Even the silence, he said, looking at the froth. Like the lips of a child, he explained, like sand and froth, like you, listening, sipping and listening. And this is, I wanted to understand it in this way because it's a human option. You know, it's an option that exists even now. And once you oppress these voices, then they get power. You know, like wherever there is difficulty, there is power. You know, there's something, some charge that is yours if you release it, if you let it speak. You know, give it, have a coffee, talk to me. And the next poem is about these kind of shadows that we don't let them talk. Shadow. Like the body in dream, it's all too easy to forget. It grows bigger as your light sets. First, it's just a cub of darkness, pulled out of your heart, licking your ankles with its warm tongue. And when you think of it, it's almost endearing. The dead toss a white bone to it, but in an hour, it's as large as your step, biting you with each step, hungry to be. The more it darkens, the more you apprehend, your footsteps slowing down on the bridge. The night is a river, an elongating animal, a maw of darkness, 100 snake teeth. The night is water and chill. Now you are scared. You appease it with a bone, a hand, or another love. Doesn't matter. At any rate, before long, you'll become one. This is let's say, the dark side of the moon, but the bright side of it is that we shape our own reality, you know, and that's a big power we hold in our hand and a big responsibility. And the next poem from a book called Poem, it looks like this, is about that. When he knows he's crawling, the slow occurs on its own. Hold the world, a cigarette, a glass, lips, the weight of your limbs on the chair's wooden seat, my face, your face, autumn leaves on the pavement, a lunch bag, a warm smell, and hands that cover you up before the day is turned off. Now, for a moment, don't hold, let go. Let them expand and furnish what's inside you without being so much of a world, without placing green on the leaves or on the remembered palm tree at the seashore. Let the leaves mingle with the pavement to rest there. Be not leaves at all, not a cigarette, a glass, lips. Expand in you like excitement, like a sea on a shore. Once they are like this, inside you, turn them off and on again. Turn off, turn on, off, on, and again. Now, do the same thing with the world in which you are you. A thing among things. Watch it sailing in the expanse of a body. Turn off, turn on, turn off and see what you are made of. All this is just the allegory in the story. Will continue flickering, and in a binary rhythm will continue to say nothing to anyone who asks. I, you, etc. And why not? Let's make a new allegory. Here we created this outside world, this orange on the blue, the insult, the hope, what quivers between us, between there is and there isn't, between this and that. Let's call it. And the next poem is a homage to Sappho, another Greek from 6th century BC. And it's talking about love and about beauty. Sappho was had this radical idea about beauty, that it's not geometric, it's not about harmony, it's about how you feel. And she had this poem. Some say the most beautiful thing on earth, on the black earth, is infantry. Some say it's cavalry. Some say it's a fleet of ships. And I say it's the one somebody loves. Yeah. So this is a chat with her. Some say life is continuing in the face of the alternative. Some say conquest. Some stretch an equal sign between life and its absence. And some say that life was given us to serve those whose life are not alive. I say you. And this is easily explained. Once again, night envelops what can be seen. At home, lamps are lit. And in the light there is no glance except the one from the mirror. Nothing except what sees me seeing it. And it brings not release, but longing, not death, but life. And I take from this gaze the warm and the cold. Night envelops everything, and I long for the one who sees me through touching, and I don't remember a thing, only this. And two more love poems. It's from a whole cycle called El Amor Brujo, after the famous piece of the Spanish composer De Falla. El Amor Brujo means like a bewitching love. How? How to say this? You are too close to bear. You are fruit bursting in the heart. You are the name the dumb mouth bears, like sea in the earth palm. I touch and envy my touching hand. Touching, I yearn to touch. Terror of this motionless moment, you are here, inside here, inside here. Here the soul fire burns, the heart unconsumed. Moon. The animal between my legs howls to the animal between your legs. The moon between my teeth howls to the moon in your heart. The animal in my heart smells you always. And, well, perhaps just one more love poem, which is also an epitaph. More. So I don't even look at you, but prefer the window, and the eye, dappled black and gray, is zooming in to discover the broken outlines of a growth whose heart is one and invisible. Like an elephant dry skin, grooved with islands, ancient, the olive tree gathers its folds into a concavity of old shadow-sunken curves, returns to stretch its ridges, roughened by the sun's touches. There, above a hump of a peel, a baby leans towards a breast, a rusty nail. Beyond this, I don't look, don't think. How can I think about leaves turning silver outside in the twilight, about the sky above them, above my gaze? How can I think about infinity and the void now, when you are about to die? And as you are about to die, how can I not think about you? How? Think perhaps about loved ones who haven't yet been. Maybe even about those who are alive. Think that even in this, there is still a thought about you, and even believe it. Can I be that strong only because of what you've done to me now, because you are dead? Tomorrow, I'll write you a few words, an epitaph, or at least a note, something poetic. For example, here lies a dancer. And if this isn't enough to bury you, I'll elaborate for sure. Water me, I'll write on the marble. Water me. I'm thirsty. Water me, and not with water. Water me, and not with clear logic. Water me, and not with a name. Water me, and not with wine. Water me, and nothing else. Water me. Beauty won't do. Love won't do. God won't do. Even this life won't do, nor any life. Water me. I'm thirsty. Thank you. And I'll finish this reading with a correction. That's a poem. A correction is a Jewish prayer. It's from this book. The text is cue from the Jewish prayer book, the whole book, but with my understanding of it. And I'll read this poem from it. A correction. A correction for the sin of being spoiled with words and mistaking the call of love. For turning away from myself like shadow from body, face from heart. For the sin of what will they say? For self-denial, for pride. For the sin of having followed the spell of praise under the stage light. For my ear that has abundant listening. For the utterance of the mouth which I have spoken, yet my soul has not. For sin I have committed against my own body with the rod of no kindness, beating my breast. For calling yours my own. For having sinned before you by anxiety and vain fear. For having fed the fire of doubt from the log of the tree of plenty. For having been dilatory in growing. For having shut my door and having neither heard nor seen nor let happiness enter me when beholding your being. Thank you.